What's happening with Vancouver's luxury real estate market in 2025 will change the industry forever. For years, building a luxury tower in downtown Vancouver was like printing money. $2,000 per square foot, buyers literally lining up to purchase these units, and the developers were ranking it in. But now, the industry has changed completely. In fact, according to the latest reports, the luxury segment in Vancouver is collapsing. Projects are going into foreclosures, resale listings are piling up, and owners are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars on their luxury units. In today's video, we will look at the hard statistics, we'll look at some examples, who's hit the hardest, and what lessons we can learn moving forward. According to the Sotheby's report that came out last week, in Q1 2025, the sales for properties over $4 million fell by 51% as comparing to Q1 2024. Things get even worse for properties over $10 million. There were only 2 sales reported in Q1 of 2025 as opposed to 7 sales in the same period in 2024. Vancouver's real estate market in general is not doing as well, but clearly the luxury segment is suffering even more. But it's not all across Canada, it's just Vancouver and Toronto, the 2 markets that are affected the most. According to the same report, both Calgary and Montreal have a rise in luxury sales in Q1 of 2025. So clearly there's something going on in Vancouver and Toronto specifically. And we can see that from the projects that are getting cancelled or going bankrupt. Just last week, we got a report that CURV, one of Vancouver's tallest luxury towers, is heading into bankruptcy type proceedings. The story behind the failure of this tower, I think, is first of all very interesting, but secondly, emblematic of what exactly is happening with the luxury real estate market in Vancouver right now. This building was very ambitious, and it was even supposed to be the tallest passive house in the whole world. In other words, it was supposed to be extremely energy efficient in terms of how much energy it actually uses, but also in terms of its carbon footprint in the building process. The developer behind this project, Brivia Group, even hired the same architect that worked on Burj Al Arab. This building was supposed to be 60 stories high with 328 strata units, 50 market units, and 102 social housing units, although the developer was negotiating with the city of Vancouver to reduce that number and to convert those social housing units into regular rental units. I think they were offering to pay city of Vancouver something like $55 million in order to change that rezoning policy. CURV launched their pre-sale marketing campaign in March 2023, and initially it wasn't very successful. In fact, within the 12 months, they weren't able to sell more than 60% of the units. That's how many units you need to sell in order to proceed with the construction part of the project. So they had to issue another property disclosure statement and start the sales campaign once again. You probably remember the headlines about this project from last year, where they were offering a Porsche 911 with the purchase of some of these units. That's how hard it was to sell them. Well, fast forward to today, and of course, these units were not sold out. Now, the creditor behind this project, BMO as well as RBC, are filing for a receivership application, which will go into court on July 25th of this year. The developer owes them more than $90 million for this building so far, even though the land assessment value is only around $40 million or so. So this project will, I feel like, have a hard time finding a future purchaser, especially since a lot of people that have put in their deposits are likely to back out of it. We actually have seen something very similar happen with one of the Think properties project not that long ago. I made a whole separate video about that. I will leave it linked in the description below. Now, why am I so confident that a lot of buyers will try to back out of their deposits? Because we have actually already seen some news stories of this exact thing happening. About 8 months ago, we have seen the developer sue one of the buyers who has purchased 4 different units. Allegedly, the buyer wasn't adding the deposits at the agreed upon timeline. The way these projects usually work is that you add, let's say, 5% of the deposit upon signing, then 6 months later, you add another 5%, and then let's say 6 months later, you'd add another 5%, or some variation of a timeline like this. In this case, the buyer, according to the court documents, refused to add their deposits, and there was a lawsuit. The outcome of this lawsuit is not clear as of today. However, it is pretty clear that if this project goes into a foreclosure, which it is very likely to go, this buyer will be celebrating because they are likely to get all of their deposit back. There are, of course, several reasons why this project has failed, but one of the biggest ones, in my opinion, is the pricing. The one-bedroom units were supposed to start at about $1 million, and the penthouse unit was reportedly around $60 million. In my opinion, Vancouver is just not a big enough city to support these type of real estate prices for these type of penthouse units. And of course, the huge change that has happened recently that has caused a lot of the collapse in the luxury real estate industry is the foreign buyer ban. We're still seeing the fallout from that ban to this day. Initially, it was introduced as a tax only, but of course now it is a full-on ban. And these developers have not recovered since, especially the luxury type units, because from my understanding, a lot of the purchasers for these units were international type buyers. Some developers even set up overseas offices in order to sell these units directly to those overseas markets. Besides the lack of international buyers, I think there are several other reasons why a lot of these luxury projects tend to suffer. Even on the resale market, they're not doing that well. We have two recent examples. On one hand, we have Vancouver House that was completed in around 2020. The other building has completed just last year, and it's called Butterfly. It has made a lot of headlines with their luxury, awkward layouts and crazy prices. So first, let's talk about Vancouver House, because I see about 26 active for sale listings in that building alone right now. That's out of 365 total units. I see some sellers listing their units for $500,000 less than what they purchased these units for back in 2017 or 2020. And they're not even able to sell at that reduced price. That's how hard these buildings are suffering. But things are even worse in the newer building, the Butterfly. This building, as I said, was just completed last year. This building has a total of 331 units. 18 of them are currently listed for sale. Just to remind you, this is the building that was just finished last year, and currently a pretty large portion of the units is already for sale. And once again, just like with Vancouver House, I see some sellers are listing their units for $400,000 or $500,000 less than what they purchased these units for, and still they're not able to sell. In fact, I was really shocked to find out that 0 units have been sold since this building was completed. A lot of people are trying to sell their units, but 0 people have sold their units so far. And there are several reasons for that. Number one, of course, the real estate market in Vancouver, specifically the condo market, is not doing that well. Secondly, as I mentioned, the luxury market has been hit even harder. Third, the lack of international buyers with the foreign buyer ban. Those are the big reasons why. But these buildings specifically were hit harder because of several other smaller reasons that I personally noticed from talking to buyers. Number one, the design and the layout of these units. A lot of them were designed by people who have clearly never lived in a condo. Some of them have completely glass walls, which in theory kind of looks nice, but on the other hand, you have nowhere to hang up your art or put up shelves or put up a TV. It looks nice, but it's not very practical. They also have what's called wall kitchens. I think a lot of buyers are backing off of these wall kitchens. A lot of people want a peninsula or an island for more food prep area. These buildings also have a lot of high-end amenities. They're sort of good for marketing the building, but not as practical for living. Like for instance, Vancouver House has a car service that you can use for a certain number of days, but is that service worth money every month, whether you use it or not, in terms of the maintenance fee? Well, that's debatable. Wouldn't it be better just to pay for the service as you need it? And because of these luxury type amenities, these buildings have some incredibly high maintenance fees. It is very common for a 2-bedroom apartment to have a maintenance fee of around $1,000 per month. It's just insanity, and of course these maintenance fees will only go up unless some of these services get canceled. But then why did you buy a unit in these luxury buildings in the first place if you didn't want to use the luxury that it offered? The other thing about these luxurious units, when you step into them, they're not even that luxurious. Sure, they have some high-end finishes and high-end appliances. Some of them come with incredible views, but a lot of them don't. They have awkward layouts, as I mentioned. They have small spaces. They have tiny living rooms. they don't feel very luxurious, or at least they don't feel much more luxurious than other buildings just around the corner that are not charging $2,000 per square foot. They're charging $1,000 or $1,200 per square foot. So on the resale market, these units tend not to do as well, because now you can actually step into the unit and see the finishes, see the view, experience the unit, experience the building as it is, not as it was marketed on the renderings, on the video, in the presentation center. Of course, at that point, they're dressed up, they're made to look a lot more luxurious than the final product actually is. Yes, a lot of these units, the higher end ones, the bigger units, the penthouses, are very luxurious, and that's where a lot of this sort of luxury type marketing comes from. But the small one-bedroom studio units, yeah, they're not luxury, they're about the same as everything else. They're just a lot more expensive. I appreciate you watching this video all the way until the end. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future. And if you're a first-time home buyer here in Greater Vancouver, you don't know where to start, I have a free buyer's guide linked in the description below. It's free, you don't need to sign up for anything. It's a video, it's a brochure that goes over the timeline, the buying experience, and what you need to know. And once again, the link to that is below. Also, if you're a seasoned buyer or if you're a seller and you just need some advice here in Greater Vancouver, shoot me an email. I'd be happy to help if I can. Thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye.